My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. For those of you that are new here, I'm a professional intuitive empath, and I raise our vibrations and get us to evolve through various conversations. And today, let's see what my charging status is at. Today, the conversation that we're going to talk about is going to be about Bad Vegan. I just literally finished watching it, and we all go into these moments collectively where we're watching something or binging something. And I have a few things on my lineup, and I very rarely indulge in just TV for the sake of fun, fluffy TV. I'm more apt to get into something that's a psychological drama and or any kind of like crime documentary or true crime story. You guys know we all have our genre specialties and niches. Well, this would definitely be it for me. This covered all of the bing, 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 bings in my own personal story, but also it covered the fascination of watching people get into this and how this happens. This is a story of a woman named Sarma, really interesting name. And she was really intelligent, is really intelligent. She's still alive. And she got taken by a con artist and a swindler kind of guy. Now, we just talked about the Tinder swindler in another video that I did because that's been part of the zeitgeist. And I'm like, how does this happen so often that these people are getting this much money and they're giving it to people that are just wild as a Taliban, and they're spending it, and they're gambling, and they're doing anything? Well, it happens through a series of brainwashing. And I want to talk about a couple of things here from a metaphysical perspective, but then also we're going to talk shop about the actual documentary. Warning, there will be spoiler alert. So if you haven't finished it, don't watch this, okay? But or listen to this or whatever you're doing. First of all, we have to address the fantastical thinking. And I'm so curious. I'm actually right now going to look up her zodiac sign, which normally I would have done before here, but I'm going to look up her zodiac sign because I would dare say and bet that there is a fair bit of water in her sign because girls and boys. I mean, here's the funny thing. Halfway through, spoiler alert, she realizes that he is fashioning this whole fantastical story he's telling her off of the movie Thor, where two brothers are good and evil and fighting each other and all of that stuff. So he quite literally is like replaying a movie script and making it about their life and having her walk through all this BS and cause her to lose her life and her livelihood. That's one thing. So I'm going to look up her sign, but let's talk about another thing that I teach it on here, which is about karmic relationships and how you know that you're near one, because they will cause you to lose everything. If this man was not a karmic soulmate of hers, I don't know what. And yes, he was painting that I've seen you in other lifetimes and whatever. And listen, guys, I got to give it to you. For some of us, those things are true, and they can elevate you and they can raise you on the wings of love, up and above the clouds. The only way to fly. Sure, we all want that. And trust me, I've had a time or two where I've had a soulmate or three look me in the eye, and I've known you before. We get that. But we are not trying to rewrite magical worlds with the head of the families and shape shifting in our bodies. And the thing that took me, because when I say I just came fresh off of this, I literally for the last 3 hours watched this or binged it, as they say. When I say it took me, that the last conversation that was recorded for them 22 months after her release in 2019 was that they were laughing, y'all, like it was a joke. It was a barrel of jokes. She was like, I'm still waiting for you to shapeshift into the unicorn and appear before me. And he's like, I'm thinking about how I'm gonna make that be. It's good that I can still make you laugh. And she's like, no, no, it's not. And he was like, I loved you. I've never met anyone as smart as you or as beautiful as you. And she says, why I fucking hate you? Because it's true. I said that these two crazy people don't get off my screen. I was so sick of it. But there is something to be said for being fucked in the head by someone who is a mastermind. And what's so funny about this guy is he is a nothing, like quite literally actually a nothing. My favorite part is when they flash back to his ex-wife who's in Tampa, who's got a good old southern accent and had a little bit too many lip fillers, God bless her soul, but she was the first one to be taken by Anthony, and he trolled her and did all kinds of shenanigans. And what I will tell you, here's a message for all of us that have been through this: rejection is God's protection. He left her and upended and just tore up her her life and flipped it upside down, left her with a baby, left her, stole her money. Him and his crooked ass dad cop came in and they were wild as a Taliban in her life. And she had to start again. It took her a year to put her heart back together again. But guess what she didn't get? Swindled in jail time with multi-million dollars owed to the IRS and other investors. Sometimes God will protect you from those haters in your life and people that are lower vibrational. But let me find out this girl's zodiac sign, because I can't teach this lesson without giving this properly. Because if there's not water in her chart, then I am not me. Because I don't know how she got like, I love a good story and I love a good fairy tale. I am a writer. I am a creator of words. I will say the things, but this was too much for me. I was like, ma'am, what? But brainwashing is real. And the reason that I don't like, I'm being funny about this, guys, and I am going to keep it with a lot of levity, is because I've been in a cult. So you're talking to someone who knows exactly what it is to be brainwashed. But I will tell you, I was a person in the cult, no exaggeration, there is proof, that I was the one who looked at the cult leader and was like, hey, is this a cult? And he said to me the only honest thing that a cult leader could: if it was, what I tell you? And it was just a hilarious memory to me. But the reason they didn't like my black ass, and I say that because I was the only black person in a white cult in Alabama. You got to talk about brainwashing, y'all. I have been there. And I even have black women from other churches come up to me like, don't you have parents and people that love you? Like, why are you here? Why don't you go home? It was hilarious. But I know for a fact what it is to really be questioning someone and how they can just brainwash you and get you to override your sensibilities. The reason they didn't like me is because I wouldn't fully override my sensibilities. My psychic powers, my gifts, and my intuition were too strong. They allowed me to be, when I say they, God, I'm not talking about Anthony and the families. I'm talking about my angels and my ancestors allowed me to have an experience with something so lower vibrational so I could teach about it later. Really, it's really just to give a little richness and texture to my life. Now I don't have any of the PTSD I had, but my God, was it a fright night for me when I was in it. And I remember, and I will say this, and I'll get back to the story here with the bad vegan. I came in, and this is what I was like, I gotta get out of here. They were passing around this huge, like, Costco sized jar of peanut butter, and my angels immediately started talking to me. So I know for any of you guys coming, you're like, this girl's crazy. Now this girl's talking about angels. I just watched Sarma, and she's talking about the families. Please bear with me. There is real spiritual practices that exist. But what I will tell you is that my angels immediately were like, he is doing a Jim Jones Kool-Aid. He is doing what is called I read a book many years ago. It was called Behold the Pale Horse. It was written by an ex-CIA. I know that I'm deviating, guys, especially if you just watch this documentary. You're like, oh my God, here we go with the crazy. But no, a real guy wrote this book called Behold the Pale Horse. And it was like in a limited publication. In any case, it was kind of floating around when I was in my college days. And they did a thing called economic shock testing. And it talks about how the CIA and the government sometimes, not the CIA, but the government will sometimes do something like spike the prices of gas up, which we are experiencing right now, just to see how much we'll take before we're like, I'm not taking this, it's stupid, put it back down, right? They want to see how far they can push us. And that is something to be said recently too, regarding what we just went through with the panorama. Girl, I'm going to stay out of it. I'm not getting into it, but just to see like how far can we make people do what we want them to do. So in that case, for whatever reason, I had read that book in college and it immediately floated into my mind when I walked into church, and I was a little late that night because I was coming from my shift at the preschool. And I remember coming in there passing around the peanut butter, and immediately I thought of Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid. And I said, right now, he may not kill us. Like maybe there's not poison in that big old jar of Costco peanut butter. But what he was doing was a little bit of culture shock testing to see if we would be obedient to him. And he passed it around. He said, I want everybody to dip their hand in, not a spoon, not a knife, not a cracker, not a slice of bread. Dip your hand in the jar and then eat some of that peanut butter. And everybody passed it around and looked at each other as we pass it on down. And when it came to me, I happily put my hand in and scooped and wiped it under my seat, because I was not going to be duped. Okay? I was like, not today, say it. I was like, you won't be looking at me crazy, but I will not be dead tonight, baby, with the rest of you Jim Joneses. Nothing happened. Everyone lived, but what he was doing was seeing how far he could get away with a thing. And if he could get away with it, if he ever wanted to actually have us commit suicide, a mass suicide like Jim Jones did, my angel stopped it. Sometimes your brain will interrupt you. Your angels and ancestors will interrupt you. Your intuition will interrupt you. Message for anybody who's ever been in a situation like that: brainwashing can happen in a cult of one, like it did here with her, or a cult of many, or a few. But we always get red flags, and we always get little messages that maybe this is not it. In the documentary, the thing that I was taken by was how many of the staff were creeped out by him, off put by him, questioned her about him, researched him. That's what happens when we're all listening to our internal locator and our flags and our systems. All systems are not go. Towards the end of the documentary, the journalist who put this together says, in the beginning, could it be very possible that Sarma married him for money because he was posturing as though he had it, and then was demanding money from her, which is so typical of any con artist. And he said, could it be possible that Sarma thought it was a con because she wanted to save her restaurant and her business, and then she got in too deep? That is what the best of con artistry does. For those of you that ascribe to spirituality, that's demonic energy specifically. There's always a trade. Yes, yeah, a little bit of this for a lot of that, which is your soul. Now, one thing that Sarma said to me that I thought was interesting, she said to us at the end of the documentary, she said, it's amazing how adaptable humans are. It is amazing. Which means that, like they talked about the Patty Hearst case, you can be coming from wild affluence and then be radicalized and then end up robbing a bank and then talk about how you didn't understood what you thought or what to thank. It also was interesting to me how she connected with the regular people in society, her homie from Tennessee, who was her friend from Chipotle, and her prison mama who she cuddled with at night. Quickly, Sarma adapted to life. Very interesting. Fascinating look, anthropologically, at the way that we can stretch into a million pieces when we're out of our comfort zone or when we have been told that we are different. Now, here's what I will say before I look at her zodiac sign. We 100% are capable of having a Stockholm syndrome happen, where it's where you identify with your abuser, your kidnapper, or your con artist, and you actually stay with them when you could leave. She talks about several times where she could have left. He never tied her to anything or whatever. But the reason that I was compelled to understand that this was so much deeper than just someone who was smart enough to try to act like I didn't do this was the footage that somehow he haphazardly took and some of their conversations that were recorded, where there was a brilliant masterclass in gaslighting. He would be abusive to her in 1 minute and then kind, complimentary, romantic and sexual, and then fantastical spirituality that was all wrapped up in something greater than me and you and the meat suits and immortality. It was a wild ride. And that, if you're not a strong person, can break your mind. And what we know about Sarma, if I'm doing a case study on her, is that she came from a relationship that was abusive and toxic previous to it, just with someone who was more sane, but also corrupt in his own way. He was a corrupt chef and business owner, and he was abusive and unkind, and he threw a power play, to which I'm sure that guy wish he would have taken it a different way now, to one of the guys that was a big investor for them. And he chose Sarma, because Sarma was brilliant, had gone to Wharton, all the things that we all judge each other by. In any case, I understood how Sarma got with this guy because it was a trauma response and it was trauma bonding. She was sad, she was lonely, and she wanted a connection. Meanwhile, back at the farm, she passed up Alec Baldwin. Well, he's got his own heap of trouble now, doesn't he? But she passed up Alec Baldwin and ended up in this situation. Alec Baldwin wanted to date her, and she passed it up and chose the guy that was on Alec Baldwin's Twitter, which is crazy to me. Crazy to me, but anyway, we all have our destiny. This was clearly her destiny, as good or ugly as it may be. She 100% trauma bonded with somebody. She got out of a toxic relationship and then jumped right into another one with a narcissist who groomed her for months before they actually met, had groomed her so well that even when his physical reality didn't match the pictures that he sent, she still went along with it. She said she wasn't attracted to him. She said he was different looking, he was bigger, and I just didn't understand. And then he would talk about his weight as something that had to happen because of some cosmic galactic battle that he was doing, because she needed to be repelled and disgusted by him. Another thing that I found interesting was towards the end of it, she talked about their sexual interaction, and it reminded me so much of a host and a parasite. It reminded me so much of narcissistic relationships and the way that I have talked about things in teaching here for you guys, that people will feed off of you. And she said exactly what I know to be true, which is that they would have sex, but it wasn't like anything she enjoyed. It was him feeding off of her. That is exactly what it is to have sex with a narcissist. He needed her light, her energy, her whatever. Was she complicit in many ways? Yeah, and she's been held accountable. She served time, etc., etc. Her name is sullied forever. She paid a high price for being under the thrall of this narcissist. But that's a karmic relationship. It will cost you to lose. It will cause you to lose in every way you can think. She lost her reputation. She lost actual finances. She lost her sanity. She lost her name. She lost her beautiful looks. I mean, she's still a beautiful woman, but she lost a lot. She lost everything that she ever worked hard to get. A con artist came in and duped her out of it. Let's take a look at her sign. Oh, I am wrong, guys. I stand corrected. I would love to see her chart, though. I know there's water in here, but she's a Virgo. So that's why she was so fantastic with business. Born September 10th. She is a Virgo. But I promise you, there's a rising water or something. I cannot deny it because Earth signs are usually so practical. That's why I found this beyond bizarre. It's even more bizarre to me that she was a Virgo because Virgos are not about these shenanigans. They're not about these shenanigans. So that's pretty fascinating to me. I know there's some water in her chart because she let herself be completely taken over and then started hustling everyone that ever loved her, her friends and her family, because she was giving all her money to he. Very Tindler Swindler, except it was a one channel because he was like, I've got the best source. So he was a big tick hooked onto her and just getting fatter and fatter and fatter, quite literally, actually, off of her money, her resources, was intercepting communications, pretended like he was in some special black ops thing. It was a messy mess of a hot hip hop mess. God has a sense of humor. They got caught with a pizza. Everybody focuses on that because she's vegan, right? And the cops even said we went into the room. They had two rooms because by that time she hated him, and she was just like being, emotionally held captive in her own way. And so he had a room and she had a room, and they were joining because he was a stalker that way. And his room was disgusting and disheveled and had pizza boxes and chicken wings, and her room was neat and whatever. And she was emaciated. She wasn't really eating because she's in the southern state of Tennessee, where everything is deep fried and definitely with meat. And it's just funny to me. I mean, that just watching it, I was like, wow, the things we do for quote unquote love. And do I believe that she loved the guy? The conversation at the end is very telling. Yes, I think she still loves him. Even with all of this, what a wild ride they went on, right? And in some way, they are soulmates. And I would say that as a practitioner, they are actually karmic soulmates. But he was completely karmic to her. He debilitated her in every single way. And if she were to ever be with him again, it would be the same. And they weren't on drugs. Some of the footage at the end was so disturbing of her just crying and having mental breakdowns because she couldn't manage anymore her emotions, and he just needed her as like a little puppet to prop up to get money for him. And he would take care of her, and she would say he would get me an oatmeal and a soy-free latte. And I would think that was so sweet because when you're in Stockholm syndrome and someone gives you a little piece of something, you think it's wonderful, but they're giving you nothing. Crumbs. That's called breadcrumbing. What a turd of a man this person is. And he's out probably scamming somebody else, and will probably try to get a game show just like the Tindler Swindler and try to get famous because he's always believed that he would be. And in this case, he actually is. And he was still trying to bully her not to make the Netflix documentary. And I'm glad she did. Do I think that she's not responsible? I do think she is. And I also think that she's smart enough to understand her privilege and the color of her skin and how to play that, meaning for sympathy if she needed to. She was held accountable in the court of law. But definitely, one of her co-workers or employees, a Spanish guy, was like, girl, she knew what she was doing on some little bit of a way. Do I think that he was shady? Obviously, we all did. But she understood that she was complicit. But he was sending her on wild goose trips to Rome and everything else. It was a mess. It was a mess. And how people get involved in this, I would love to say I don't know. But the truth is, I do. Because I was involved in it too. But to a lesser degree. A much lesser degree. And it was just little old black me dealing with a lot of people that didn't like me and also didn't like that I was smart enough to ask questions about their bullshit and about where the money went. There was an issue one time where money was being embezzled from the church funds, and he stood up in front of the church with his without any apprehension or any kind of confliction in anything. And he said to us, if I want to spend the money on a hardtop cover for my Jeep, or if I want to spend it on 7 pizzas to eat, or if I want to, because at the time he was investing in a pizza shop, ironically enough, and if I want to spend it in whatever, and he went on naming the list of things, he said, then what right do you even have to question me? He said, you don't get to question me. You trust me because I'm your leader. It reminded me very much of the verbiage that this guy used with her throughout some of the documentary. These people exist. People that are pieces of shit that without glomming onto the back of someone who is willing to do the work, which in this case, the cult leader that I had glommed onto the back of his wife, who was actually talented and was actually really gifted with child care and had opened a daycare. He failed at everything he ever did until he glommed onto her, and then they were able to branch out and brainwash many more kids. Awesome. The point is, I watched that he was good at nothing, and he had a reputation for being good at nothing except for talking shit. That's what your con artist is. That's your basic run of the mill con artist. And I saw it for what it was. I saw his Geminian duality and bullshit. I saw the twins that didn't like each other and didn't like me. And I saw that he was full of hypocrisy. People don't like to be called out. And the more you do, the more violent they will get with you. A lesson I learned up close and personally. You guys, if you are in a relationship where you are questioning, or your friends are questioning, or someone's pushing other people out, this guy swindled her mother out of $450,000. She gave him, before it was over with, $1.7 million plus the total balance is really $6 million plus dollars, $6.4 million for him to just piss away at casinos. He wasn't doing anything important. And he was playing shell games with her, a shell game at the carnivals where they move the thing around the cup, right? So he would ask her for 5,000 and give her back 1,000, and then ask her for 10,000, and then give her back 5, and then ask her for 20, and then give her back 10 to engender trust in her. He would just play games with her money with her and try to intercept her restaurant business. There's even a recording of him holding a meeting where someone said, so are we going to talk to you or Summer, or what do we do? Oh, we'll figure all that out later. We just want all of you to be happy. Embezzling money from her mother, intercepting communications with her sister and her father. And the father and sister were smart enough not to do it, but the mother was also swindled by him. Con artists will come into your life. It's a demonic energy. It's funny. I hate even saying this because he used a lot of pseudo spirituality to really pull her in and let her become part of this fantasy. And she wanted to live there, and she did. And it was sad to see. But I can't judge because it was also me. A Christian cult became my reality. And they were not good people, and they did not have the body of Christ in them or the goodness of the Lord. They were posturing, they were greedy, they were thieves, they were abusive, they were liars. But I was a denier for a long time until I could not unsee their cruelty. Sarma and this guy, Anthony, strangest appropriate name, or whatever his other magical name, Shane, whatever, a hot mess. Sarma, yes, complicit to some degree, but I could see that she was really fragile and broken at the end, and that is exactly what a narcissist will do to you. Have you questioning your whole reality. He just happened to paint a really fantastical big picture. Narcissists are lying all the time. But this guy lied and believed every lie in his mind. And narcissists believe lies in their mind, but this guy like believed it. And he had already done the practice run with the girl in Tampa, his ex-wife. So she was like, she even said, she was like, I couldn't believe it that he made it that big time because it was a honky tonk with them. But oh boy, he hit the jackpot when he got with Sarma. And he bought her empire to an end. She had an empire. She was at the forefront. Even one of the guys in the documentary said, the major investor that she swindled said, you see almond milk on the shelves today. Sarma led that. She led the way, and she did. She had a calling in her life to do something great, and she did it. But a karmic relationship came in and ended it. A karmic relationship with a narcissist who then sucked her in, and she fully was Stockholm by the end of it, and fragile and broken and doing things. And it's funny. Here's where we get a little tricky. She was like, I mean, I changed my name and I covered up my tattoo, but was I on the run? I don't know. I was like, bitch, you're lying. Okay, now you're not brainwashed anymore. Now you knew you were wiling. You were wiling out. You were out of control. It was crazy time at that time. But Stockholm syndrome is a real thing. It can be studied. And I was like, well, did she have Stockholm? I don't know, but I felt just like that employee of hers that was like, she knew. She kind of knew. Like she knew a little bit. Because I was like, ma'am, you're changing your name, you're this and that. And even the interviewer was asking her questions like, ma'am, didn't you realize it? That she's like, well, I mean, I was just, I was like, girl, he sucked a lot of life out of you. I know. But at that point, you have to know that you're complicit in the crazy. And that's something that you can't unsee, you know? So it was a fascinating, wild roller coaster and one I will not soon forget. But it reminds me to properly vet people that come into your life. And if you do not know whether it's a karmic or not, check your bank account, check your emotional resources, check your wallet, check your fridge, check your gas tank. If you're losing shit, then a karmic is in your life. It is ruining it. It will take you from the top of society to literally being at Rikers. Quite literally, this woman ended up at Rikers. I can't even believe. From the glitterati of Manhattan society, from Alec Baldwin being a suitor to being sleeping under the breast of your jail cell mama. It's a wild ride, our life. But she chose that. Akashic Records is what I mean. We all have our destinies. Choose your own adventure is a real thing. Not to sound fantastical like the con artists in this thing. It's real though. Sometimes a partner will come into your life and other people will give you red flags and warnings and say, whoa, 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 whoa. What are we doing? Alert, alert, warning, warning. And if you overwrite all of those, then the devil says, awesome, and rubs his hands together, her hands, whatever you want to call it, and says, got him. Mm, mm, mm. Another one bites the dust, and another one bites, and another one bites the dust. Demonic energy loves it. When we forfeit our lives and our will, our free will and our power to someone else because we want to believe in that beautiful picture they have up on the shelf. I was disturbed when I heard the last closing moments of the documentary where she's talking to him and asking when he's going to turn into a unicorn and shapeshift. He, in my mind, could get fucked for the rest of his life. Forever and a day and then another day. But I guess we're not built in the same kind of way. I would never talk to him again. And I sure as hell would not be giggling with him like, man, what a wild ride it was. You remember when you used to order pizza and berate me and make me lose my mind? I don't talk to the ex cult. I don't talk to any ex friend of mine. If you are ex, you're there for a reason. And if you gaslit me, Stockholm me, abuse me, brainwash me, then it's treason. Off with your head forever. Do not tread on me. All that stuff. It's my reality. So it was very strange. And I thought that was some good talking. He had her really under his spell because I would have never talked to him again. I would have never wished him well. He could have forever and forever burned in the hottest of hells. I would have never talked to him again. I couldn't even believe that I was hearing it. I was like, ma'am, did this get recorded while you guys were still cupcaking? I know you were married. I get it. But according to everybody else, they said it was a marriage of convenience and finances. It wasn't one of love. She didn't love him, is what one of the participants said. Who are we to say? What is love anyway? Whatever it is, it's not what we just saw. If you watched Bad Vegan, please tell me about your thoughts down below. But Stockholm and narcissism and yeah, repudiation. These are the things that we got to know in that. How one person can come in and upend your life if you're not careful. It's very scorpionic energy. I have another video up here where I teach what I consider a masterclass in fuckery, guys, with scorpionic energy. Please go check that out. I teach it because I learned it, having to walk through it with crazy people. And that's how we learn. As my angel says, when we teach, we should learn. And when we learn, we should teach. And that's my impetus to you at all times. But yeah, this one will blow your mind. Because you just think the more it goes on, you're like, how did you get into this? Why are you still in it? Why are you still doing this? This man's obviously crazy. And the juxtaposition of his Tampa Southern old belle wife being like, man, I can't even believe he got that far. It just puts it all into a reality, into a microscope, and you can't unsee it. Sarma is smart. Sarma is brilliant. Sarma is beautiful. But Sarma was no better than any one of you and I. She looked the devil right in the eye and she said, I do. I think I want to marry you. Oh, man. The things we do for love, quote unquote, love. The things we do to fulfill our karmic chart. The things we do to tap into our Akashic records and to break our own hearts just so we never forget a lesson. Sometimes those terrible experiences are a blessing. I would not want to go back to the cult now. Oh shit! Now, in this point in my life, it would be a delight for me to kick in the doors and set everybody free. But my younger self wasn't equipped. I had to learn how to empower myself, and I learned it through terrible experiences like that. How to speak up for myself, how to trust my own mind, how to not let someone push me into something, how to trust that I am part of the divine no matter what anyone says to me. And I wouldn't trade nothing for my journey now, but I'm not trying to go back. I will tell you that. I will say for people that are in that situation, whether it's a relationship or a cult situationship or some kind of primal entanglement, there is a way out. And one of the major warning signs is if they're trying to get you to divest from your friends, your family, your company, your business, and your money. This person is not your forever after. This person is probably going to take you to the depths of hell, Dante's Inferno. And we empaths don't do well with such high heat. I love you guys, and if you watched it, please talk to me because this was crazy. Come back and join me next time, and we'll continue to evolve together.